Hey guys, and welcome to my top 10 list of the Kickstarters that happened in 2019. I'm going to be listing all of my favorites with a talk and discussion of why, but I'd also be curious onto what you think, so be sure to comment below telling me what your top 10 are, or if you agree or disagree with my list, and for what reason, so we can have a discussion about it. The reason I do this isn't actually just to make a video. I can make a video about all sorts of stuff. The reason I always pick this is because I want to highlight the commendable Kickstarters, the ones that did it right, the ones that did well, the ones that did things correctly that we want to see more of. So you're going to see a lot of that on here where we're just talking about all the fun times we had in 2019. And then next week, we're going to be looking at the 2020 Kickstarters. Again, there's a lot of exclusives there, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. Be sure to subscribe for that because that's going to be a doozy. Additionally, that video is also where you need a comment to win a copy of Dawn of Madness. So if you're wanting a free copy of Dawn of Madness, if you're excited about all the minis and the theme and the story and all that jazz, be sure to, again, subscribe so you get notified of that video so you can leave that comment and hopefully win. Alright guys, thanks so much, and let's get started. Number 10, Tiny Epic Tactics. This is actually the only non-miniature game to win me over, so obviously it needed to make the top 10 list, if nothing else for that accolade. But why did it get into this top 10 list, and why did I back it, especially when it's not a miniatures game? Well, first of all, the $37 all-in deluxe package certainly didn't hurt. $37, when it comes to how I back these games, these big miniature games, I'm looking at you, Bloodborne, I just throw money at it half the time. And so $37, that's not even an expansion on a lot of these. There are expansions I pay for more than that. This is the all-in deluxe with several different maps and stuff like that. That's sweet. I'm all about that. But it's also just the theme. I'm a huge Tactics fan. I remember playing Final Fantasy Tactics all the way on the PSX. Loved it to death. Really enjoyed it. I was too young to understand the story fully, and it's not that the translation helped, but I still enjoyed it. And then, of course, I continued to play Tactics games from there, and even kind of ones like Advanced Wars and stuff like that. It just all the way to the remake of the, or I guess it wasn't a remake of the Final Fantasy Tactics. The one he started with a snowball fight. I don't know, on the GBA, I think. Either way, I'm a huge fan of these. It's not like a huge RPG like that, but I just like the whole. It's kind of like a chessboard, but there's different terrain and levels of elevation and stuff like that. I really like the board presence this one has, where you can use the boards to or the boxes to actually make hills and stuff. It looks really cool. My kids are probably going to enjoy it. I'll be actually able to enjoy it with them. And again, $37. Number 9, Cryptic Explorers. Alright, so why is Cryptic Explorers, a relatively unknown Kickstarter, number 9 on my top 10 list? Well, it's because mostly it's a unique niche game made possible only by Kickstarter. It has a theme that some people absolutely love, which is great, but it's not mass marketable. Not a lot of people are going to get this. Between the art and just the theme and kind of the horror aspects of it, it's a very, very stark contrasty look to it. And I appreciate all of that. It's not necessarily for me, but I love that it's there. I love that it was able to actually be made on Kickstarter, that it did well, relatively speaking, that a person that has a vision as a creator is able to create something and have it funded on Kickstarter. That's what it's all about, right? I mean, sure, there's consumer benefits, and that's why I'm in it, but at the end of the day, this would not have ever been made without Kickstarter, and I think that's great. I fully support any kind of creative backers that aren't forcing themselves to have fantasy-styled miniatures in the scale of Dungeons & Dragons just so they can get more money. I'm all about them having a unique vision, a creative idea, and then implementing it, developing it, and then ultimately releasing it. That's cool. Additionally, it also had a amazing-looking bust of one of the miniatures, and that's what initially got me. I'm like, whoa, that looks awesome. So I'm all about that too. And additionally, the game actually seemed pretty cool. In fact, if it wasn't for the theme, I might have actually backed it, which again, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to make a game for me. Make a game you want to make. That's great. But, between building your own tactical squad of people and then knowing that not all of them are going to live, so you kind of have to judge when they die and whether that'll be a beneficial time for them or whether you're going to try and save them. That seemed cool. I like the asymmetrical design of it. So the evil player can do different. It seemed like a really well-made game actually too, which is kind of cool. You see a lot of games that make over $1 million with less unique and interesting game mechanics, I think. So definitely earns one of my top 10 spots. Number 8, Clash of Rage, second printing. It has a very controlled scope on the Kickstarter, and it's an underappreciated game, I feel. So let's talk about the scope here. They unlocked all of their stretch goals. What I mean by that is they said, you've now unlocked everything. This is what we had planned. This is what we're making. And it was all realistic. They were introducing a new, clan or tribe, or I forget. Yeah, I think it's a clan that they have. So they are introducing a new clan, which again is cool. And you're further supporting a game that you released a Kickstarter so many times. These games are just one and done. They release the game and you never see them again. The only time you might see them again is if Kaban decides to finally, make that time vault thing a reality, actually follow through with what they said they're going to do, which they're not going to deliver this month, obviously, and open up that PM so you can see, hey, look, they're willing to resell the stock they still have, so they stop paying warehouse costs. But to actually support it by making new clans and adding to that, that's awesome. So that's really cool. I love the controlled scope. I love the idea of it. It was both a second printing, but then also adding to it. And also, I think it's an underappreciated game. I actually really like Clash of Rage, and I feel sometimes like not a lot of people see that. It's what I would play if I wanted to play Small World, but have more fun. So if I'm sitting down with my kids or my family, and we just want kind of a fairly light kind of area controlled game or something like that, I could bring out Small World, and Small World's great. I'm not saying it's not, because I've played that dozens of times. But this one's got really sweet minis, it's got a way more interesting combat mechanic, and the loot. I love the item cards. The fact that the legendary cards are full foil, that they're the shiny foil cards, so awesome. I wish more games did that. It's funny, you don't really see that. You see that in card games a lot. The ultra powerful stuff is foil, but when it comes to board games, rarely do you see the foil cards. So it was very cool to finally earn and work towards getting this epic foil card that's really good in the game, looks freaking sweet. Love the art style. The miniatures are great. The snap and trace terrible, but besides that, it's a fun game. I think the only problem people have sometimes on it is that if your group is wrong, in other words, if your group is not cohesive enough or not skilled enough to realize this, that once you start getting that legendary gear, if you're the first person, it ramps up and you can kind of take that home to the win. Now, in any kind of group that knows what they're doing, they're going to counter that by, fighting that dude. And so it's almost like you want to be the second person to get it, because the first person that gets it is just going to be tackled, right? I mean, you're going to have everybody converge on you. So it just depends on the group, I think. If your group is okay with realizing there's going to be a winner and stopping that from happening, then it's really cool. Because then you almost have to think, I want to be the first, obviously, and win, but I need to be able to counter what they're going to throw at me next. So there's a lot of fun. Anyway, it's whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. Number 7, Kingdom Rush, Rift in Time. What can I say about this? This put Lucky Duck Games in the limelight here. Now that they're done with like Jetpack Joyride and stuff like that, this was huge. It exploded. Over $1 million funding, their first ever, by a long shot too. Like, this just got huge. And it's not even necessarily, I think, the IP, though I think the IP here fits the game and what they made really well, but it's not like it's just the super popular IP compared to the other stuff they were doing. It was a well done campaign with great stretch goals, great expansions, very professional looking videos, very professional looking prototypes. They definitely had all their ducks in a row, dotted all their I's, crossed all their T's, and really put their A game into the Kickstarter. They did plenty of updates, and they were in the comments, and they were reacting to the community, saying thank you and all that. And again, it was great to see a company take Kickstarter that seriously and then see them rewarded for it. The game also looks really, really actually kind of fun. It's again a pretty unique take on it, and I appreciate that. I like all the game mechanics I've seen. It looks very kid friendly. As a person with 4 kids, that's obviously appealing to me as well, because I love having that family time with them. And and the minis look pretty cool too. And how they're designed, even if like Lucky Duck Games isn't the best at making minis, these will still work because of the sculpt design. So I think I'm going to be happy with them regardless, which is great. I mean, that's always good. As long as you're designing a certain way and it fits the art and all that too. It just looks fun. It looks like it scales well. I'm excited for it. So looking forward to getting that, and props to them for breaking $1 million. Definitely worthwhile and noteworthy. And that's why they're at my number 7. Number 6, Middara, the complete trilogy. Where do I start with this? Now, I guess what I can say is they did the Kickstarter right. And I've seen some of the like PowerPoint slides that they had where they were definitely planning for a big campaign and realizing the potential of stuff like that. You've seen Kingdom Death Monster do it with multiple Kickstarters, and Deep Madness did well that way too. But essentially what they did, is they had this passion project and they made this game, and it took forever for them to make. I mean, it was delay after delay, but they kept the communication up. Their consumers and backers were generally happy, all things considered. You know, it was quite a delay, and I've seen it go south quick. So they were able to kind of keep that hype up, which is good. It finally delivers. People start getting it and start really enjoying the game. It creates a lot of buzz. People are talking about it. They like the unique kind of anime style of it. They love the character, development and creation kind of system where you can use all the different weapons and stuff like that. They love the items and just kind of the missions and the story and all that. So people are buzzed about it. And then what do? Bam! They drop down a second Kickstarter. They're like, hey, you want more? Here's the complete trilogy. You got Act 1. Here's Act 2, Act 3. And then we're going to use our stretch goals to make Act 1 better. And I always appreciate when a company makes their previous backers, their previous game better with the new funding and level of success that they're having. There's another game that did that, and I'm going to list here shortly, a little bit higher up in the list. But either way, I think they did a great job on it. Succubus Publishing rocked this really hard, did a great job, and of course it looks huge in scope, and I'm excited to kind of get it. Hopefully I like it because I got enough of it, right? I mean, it's just one of those things, but no, they did a great job on the Kickstarter, and it's well earned. The stretch goals were great. They did the daily stretch goals. I love daily stretch goals. Please start doing daily stretch goals. I don't care about your fake numbers you're going to put on there. Just figure out what you can complete based off of the funding that you're hopefully targeting. Monolith just did a great description of this, or a blog of this on their Facebook about the fake funding level so they can fund in 2 minutes and crap like that. But either way, as long as you have a good business plan, it's so much more controllable and people enjoy it so much more. They're going to your Kickstarter every single day to read your updates. You can wrap your updates around the daily unlocks, so you always have at least something every day to talk about, even if the campaign itself didn't move much. It's just better. They did a great job on it. It was a great Kickstarter. Number 6. Number 5, Bloodborne, the board game. Which is really Bloodborne, the miniatures game, unless I don't know if card games, board games? See, the terminologies there are weird. Sometimes they say the miniatures game, like Street Fighter, the miniatures game, and sometimes it's the board game. But then you already have a game that comes in a box that you can play on a table, but I guess it's not really a board because it doesn't have a player board because it's a card game. I don't know. But some card games have player boards, so is that then a board game? Whatever. Either way, this is, CMON's, one of their bigger, successes here. Definitely set a trend for them because they had the card game, they made the board game hugely successful. Over 4 million raised, 23,000, almost 24,000 backers that are excited to get this. So that's a huge, kind of intake for them. That's on the level of Zombicide for them, right? That's very good. It's not one that failed at all. That's for sure. And it kind of set a trend because afterwards they kind of were like, hey, we're going to get this other Sony exclusive, the God of War card game. Who knows if we could make a board game after that? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Eric Lang essentially said, you know what we do. So obviously expect a God of War board game, in which case I might freak out. I'll probably definitely freak out about that more than this one. But I'm a huge fan of the Bloodborne IP. Love the IP. And that being said, while that's a personal like for me, the reason it's so high, the reason it's number 5 and not like number 8 or 9 or something like that, just like, hey, I like the IP, did really well, is because CMON actually ran this Kickstarter fairly well. They had some planned expansions. They appeased a lot of people in what they were able to get. They talked a lot and actually changed how the trick weapons work. Because so the trick weapons are where the weapons change forms. In other words, you can go from like a short kind of little axe to like a two-handed axe, a big thing, or something like that. They transform into different things. And it was the same art. And people were like, oh, that's kind of dumb. And so what did they do? They actually changed what they were going to do and changed it to where it now uses the art better. And so you can actually represent the tricked out weapon different than its normal form. That's really cool. Additionally, they had a ton of votes about kind of these paths we could take on as backers on like, okay, do you want to unlock characters that fit this part of the game that you know, or this part of the game that you know? To the point where some of them we never saw. They lost the vote several times. They even said, this is the last time you're going to see this. We can't do this all the time. Which one do you want to see? And they weren't picked again. So whether that's a future expansion, whether that's pledge manager stuff, whether that's a next Kickstarter, whether we never see that again, I don't know. They didn't do a lot of the DLC stuff, so I'm expecting at least a follow-up Kickstarter or something like that to make the buzz there. Probably a full big box expansion. My assumption. Either way, Come On really did a good job here. They don't always listen. They don't always do it right. Sometimes they're putting out a great game and then shoot themselves in the foot with some kind of corporate BS crap that they're pulling on Kickstarter. So the fact that they listened to backers, they did the vote. I love the IP. Minis look great. I like the idea of painting them a certain way where it's kind of muted, but then with like strikes of color, like a red scarf and stuff like that, seem actually really appealing to me. I've never really painted like that, so that should be kind of fun. Either way, really excited about that. I'm glad they were rewarded with doing a good job on Kickstarter, listening to their backers. Props to Come On for that. So that's why my number 5. Number 4, Dawn of Madness. Alright, so I just came off the review here and I wasn't super stoked about the game in its current state, at least the version I got. Now, why is that top here? In fact, such a top, in the top 5 of my Kickstarters this year. Well, it's because, first of all, the Kickstarter can be separate from the game. You can run a Kickstarter really well. You can do some things I really like to see and me not get the game. I didn't even back Cryptic Explorers and it made the list too. So it's not just what I'm wanting to play. It's not my favorite potential games. It's my favorite Kickstarters, my top 10 Kickstarters. And this is definitely one of them. There are over 70 plus unique sculpts already. This reminds me so much of Hate, where people were concerned about, some of the game mechanics and stuff like that, and, the theme of it and all that kind of stuff, but it was very focused on painters and miniature lovers and stuff like that, so they had a lot of great stuff in Hate. Get the game. It was my top game. I loved Hate. I've played every single scenario almost of Hate, sometimes multiple times over. I've played more games of Hate than most other games. A great game. Really enjoy the game mechanics there. And of course, I very much appreciate the quality miniatures, all the unique sculpts, blah, 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 whatever. So this has that going for it already, right? But on top of that, again, I've been impressed with some of the stuff they've been doing on the Kickstarter. For instance, even after my, preview came out or whatever, they actually did a thing where they're like, you know what? We're going to change that. We're going to change how movement works. We're going to change how the board layout is. We're going to change how the kind of art on the cards are. We're going to change the Central Wanderer thing. We're going to work with you guys to make a game that you all will love. And that is awesome. To add that meat to the bones, because the outline, the foundation is fantastic. So I actually have a lot of faith in these guys. They've reacted to any criticisms I've had great, and not just me, but a lot of you guys have been talking about this, and that's great to see. Additionally, they announced for free a pack to add a lot of their miniatures into Deep Madness. So again, supporting a previous campaign. This is the one I was talking about, or said I'll talk about in the future. That's awesome. I love seeing that. That means if you've been with them and you've backed Deep Madness, which I have, the second printing, I missed the first one sadly, and you back Dawn of Madness, they're going to reward you even more with some free stuff. You know what? Take this content. It's now added. Add some variety to Deep Madness. You can now have some more enemies to fight against. That's cool. Love it. And again, it's free. So they've been listening to backers. They've been unlocking great things. They have the daily unlocks. They switched to that pretty early on. Again, awesome. Thank you for doing that. So much better. I love knowing that, first of all, you're going to get a lot of content with these long games. They're out in many days, like 30 days. It's 30 stretch goals at least. That's awesome, including social stretch goals and stuff like that. Freebies like the Deep Madness crossover thing. Either way, all the unique minis look great. The foundation of a great experience is there. They have an awesome story. They have an awesome theme, awesome art, awesome miniatures and the sculpt design there, and an awesome team working on trying to make it the best it can be. So definitely top 5 here. When it comes to Kickstarters, Dawn of Madness is hitting it out of the park, and I'm glad to see that they're being well rewarded for it. Number 3, Dark Rituals. Now, I don't know if a lot of you thought about this game even, or if this was going to be this high on my list, but it was almost above 3. In fact, there were only 2 games that came out, obviously. There were 2 Kickstarters that launched that beat it. Otherwise, it was my number 1. I really enjoyed Dark Rituals. I'm not even try to pronounce the rest of it. It's just Dark Rituals to me. The theme, again, awesome. I love the witches. I love the kind of like the Salem kind of thing going on there. The miniature sculpt design looks incredible. The improvements that they've put into their miniatures since their previous vampire game, again, much appreciated. It looks awesome. They listened to feedback from backers of the previous game. They're implementing it here. They added a lot of free stretch goals. The stretch goals here were awesome. So I'm excited about the game. I'm excited about the potential of where this is going. I love the miniatures and art, as I've said. But why is this, number 5 on a Kickstarter thing? Well, because again, they were rewarded for it. They have proven that as long as you consistently hit on things, and do well and keep working, keep at the grindstone, keep working hard at what it is you're doing, making your creation as good as possible. I can relate to that. As a YouTuber, hopefully I'm improving as I go along. I know I'm trying my hardest and best to, make the best videos, and I can see that they're trying to make the best game that they can. Their first Kickstarter was unsuccessfully. It was canceled. It did not fund. And they've gone from that to making over $700,000 on this latest one. That's darn impressive. And I love the A game they're showing there. They had everything was ready. There wasn't a lot of concept art or, renders or any issues or anything like that. They had the renders, they had the art, they had the resin prototype sculpts and all kinds of stuff. They just did a great job. And again, man, this theme and those miniatures look freaking sweet. So number 3, Dark Rituals. Number 2, Oathsworn, Into the Deepwood. What can I say about Oathsworn that I haven't already said on this channel? Shadowborn Games did an amazing job on it. They spent years working on this game, developing it, playtesting it, getting the art, getting the sculpts, getting everything in there. They even had a lot of stuff. I even talked to them somewhat about their Kickstarter and planning on, what's the price point? What can we do? What can't we do? What's the scale we need? What are the options we have? All of that. They did so much professional work on this. It's highly commendable. This is the opposite of indie. Even though it's their first Kickstarter, it was done better than a lot of Come On campaigns. And they've been doing this 22 plus times. So that's impressive. They definitely came out here strong. Additionally, it's just a good game with a sweet kind of grim dark fantasy vibe. I freaking love the penitent guy with the huge shield. That's freaking awesome. The gameplay is great. They did a great job interacting with the community. They did a great job having a good scope where they're this is our first game or this is our first Kickstarter. We're not going to do all these crazy stretch goals. We're not going to have this big thing and then delay it by 2 years. This is the game we're doing. This is what we're making. And then we can build on it, build on that success in the future. So I look forward to seeing what else they do, whether it's in the Oathsworn universe or outside of it. Just the fact that they're really trying to establish themselves as a company, and they did it and hit it out of the ballpark. Almost 2 million raised. That's pretty commendable for your first time. Very well done, especially because they didn't inundate you with a $500 all-in or a $900 all-in or a grand plus of an all-in that some of these games do. This was a very manageable thing in most people's budgets, especially considering the pledge manager length and stuff like that, that they just wanted to get their games in people's hands so they could see it and start actually following, hey, that's Shadowborn Games and know what they're doing. So very well done Kickstarter here. Extremely well done. Hence why it's my number 2. Alright, at this point you probably know what my number 1 is, especially if you're a common viewer of my channel and you just kind of know my tastes and what I cover and what I like to see and stuff like that. But before we get into that, I just want to say there were a lot of Kickstarters that I enjoyed here. This is a top 10 list, and these are always so hard. Not only to find an order, and even then the order's kind of loosey-goosey. I would mark all of these as great, and then, there's always the top 5 are super great, and then the bottom 5 or whatever. Some of them are interchangeable. I enjoyed them all, but I enjoyed more than this too. Just because I'm not a top 10, you know what? Going to put every single other one in a top 11. Kickstarter was great this year. They did such an awesome job. The industry is definitely maturing as to how they handle the Kickstarter platform, and while we're seeing some nasty stuff the Death May Die kind of Cthulhu crap where Come On lies about how long it's going to take and how expensive it's going to be to make their big miniatures and do this fake hype thing just so they can get people all rabid trying to save a few bucks for something that they think is going to last longer, and then they end up releasing them all early because it was all full crap anyway. We see crap like that, and that can really get you down. And I get that we can focus on the negative. We can focus on the botched Kickstarters, the botched things. But you know what? It's December. It's a great time of the year. Let's actually, just focus on what's great here. What's awesome about these games. The fact that a lot of these games would not make it without Kickstarter. That's amazing. It's a huge thing. So, alright. Anyway. Number 1. Aeon Trespass Odyssey. This was hard to pick as a number 1. Again, my top 5 I really, really like. Oathsworn, you know how much I love Oathsworn, right? Dark Rituals, you can't imagine how much into that theme I am. It's great. Dawn of Madness Minis, again, awesome. Bloodborne, are you kidding? It's one of the few games I've beat lately, with 4 kids and a YouTube channel, a full-time job and all that. I don't have time for a lot of these games, but I did finally beat Bloodborne actually this year because of the Kickstarter, so that was awesome. I'd gotten really close to the end, it turns out. I didn't even know. Anyway, so Middara, all of these have been so great. But Aeon Trespass Odyssey, one of the things I liked about them is that, first of all, this was planned for years again, but not just planned, in secret or off a Kickstarter, but they will needed to establish them as a company. And what they did is they actually got the funds from kind of some early prototypes of it. So they had these miniature runs of the nymphs and then some of the other, titans that you're going to get and some of the monsters and whatnot. And they actually made these kind of collectible resin kits and made Kickstarters for that. And they looked great. They were awesome. I was highly interested in them. I think they did a great job on those and they delivered them. So they started getting people used to the IP. They started getting money in as a company just so that they could then put out a really big thing when it came to Aeon Trespass Odyssey. This was the game they were wanting to make, and everything else was just in building up to it. So I loved how they implemented that. It's a very responsible way, I think, to run a business, to just kind of release piecemeal stuff and kind of build buzz and interest in a community, plus the funds needed to really do what you want to do, instead of just, gunning for, go big or go broke kind of thing, which I think they still would have done well. But I think what they did was a more cautious and planned and reliable way to do it. So I really liked seeing that. Additionally, just the scale of this is epic. I have never experienced in my life, and in any of the games I've played, something as epically big as Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Just the amount of story, the amount of branching paths, the fact that just in the prelude, you can be at war with the main questline people, or you can not be. That's insane to me. The fact that you're going to have diplomacy and trading. This game does it all. And it actually flows quite well. Again, I was very impressed with it. None of it seemed cumbersome at all. It seemed really good. The combat mechanic with that hard co-op is such a fundamental shift in how you think about playing a game. It just feels different than anything else. And I love co-op dungeon crawlers and stuff like that. I love the table talk. I've never seen anything that hard co-op did, and I love it. That kind of player agency is something I would love to see in a lot of other games, where even when it's not your turn, you're just as involved in other people's turns. It's great, and it's awesome, and I love it. The theme, again, freaking, weird sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, ancient Greece. I mean, talk about unique. There's not enough minis of that, that's for sure. So that's really cool. They can take it different places. They've really thought about it. You can tell that they've seen where they want to take it afterwards and all that. I'm gushing over this game. Great experience playing it. Great experience in the Kickstarter with all the kind of buzz and the hype and the teases of what's going to come up next and all that, and the interaction with the community, and just they did a great job here. Definitely earned a top spot on this list. So that is my number 1, Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Alright, so that's my views on things. That's my top 10 list of the Kickstarters of 2019. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I always enjoy talking about it, discussing with you guys. One of my big things this year is the holiday season, and we are getting to Christmas here real soon. Whether you celebrate it or not, the traffic's going to be crazy either way, and there's going to be a lot of times where you're with family or maybe with people you don't necessarily even talk to all the time. One of the best things I think you can do, bring a board game. Play games with your family. Play something that is enjoyable, that gets people to laugh, that gets people excited, that gets people to cheer, that gets people together. That's what this time of year is all about, and I personally am glad that we can be together, at least in this way. I might not be there physically, but I always enjoy reading your comments and discussing things with you. So thanks so much for being here. Thanks for watching. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons. Without their support, this channel would not be possible. And as always, I'll talk to you soon.